So we're here with Bob Cutarella, record executive, producer, publishing, licensing
Italian
guy,
chef.
artist.
Yeah.
You know,
A little bit of all of it.
a little bit. Well, we're here. You let us come into your beautiful LA downtown loft. Appreciate you letting us come in.
No, it's my pleasure.
Let's jump in.
Yeah.
So, how did you get into music initially?
You know, I was playing drums when I was 9. But I got into music because in the neighborhood that I lived in Queens and Brooklyn, there was music all over Brooklyn. And then when I moved to Queens, there wasn't much going on. But a friend of mine's father was a cop, and he and my best friend John, talking to my father one day, and they said, I want to take these kids to see Gene Krupa. Now, Gene Krupa was a famous drummer, so pretty much like, you know, Lars Ulrich from Metallica today, you know. Krupa was that guy. Actually, Gene Krupa was responsible for a lot of changes in the way drums were made. So, he was arrested for weed way before.
Before it's legal now.
Yeah. Well, in those days, it certainly wasn't legal with him, and he got a lot of flack and all that. But Krupa was one of these guys that was really cool and collective, and he had a pompadour, and he had a slick suit on, tie open. And he was sweating like crazy. We got in, and I got to sit next to him.
Oh, wow.
And here I am, this kid who's not supposed to be it's in the Metropole in New York. And I'm watching Krupa sweat, and the drumsticks are shredding by me, and I'm going, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, you know? Only because the audience, total control over the audience, total control over, total dominance on the drums, you know? Fast, he made that, you know, that whole
groove
feel that, you know, that came from blues, you know, and Delta blues and all. He made it popular in the swing era. And so it was him and Buddy Rich. So I went home, and I
decided you wanted to be a singer when you realized how much stuff you had to carry to each gig?
No, well, you know what? Let me tell you. Singing would have been a lot easier than carrying drums, pal. Let me tell you. My father can be the testament if he were alive, you know, because he was there all the time just carrying the drums with me and taking me, because 9 years old, where am I going, right? He's driving the drums around like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Can he play a flute or anything, or sing? Sing, go in the shower and sing, try it, do something. Anyway, I got into music because of that, and then the Beatles came afterwards. So I took drumsticks, I took my aunt's cooking utensils, you know, the old Italian spoons.
Yeah.
And I started banging on boxes, just to play along to records, you know, and just see what we had. Records then. We still have records, but we had records mostly, even 45s. So I had a little portable player, sit there, play all day in and day out, day in and day out. And then I started dreaming about it in school, you know. In school, I couldn't really focus too much because it was always about the drums.
Yeah.
Being a drummer was cool. So
did that particularly take you right into record producing, or did you tour as a musician for a little bit and then found your space?
No, not at all. What happened was I took a lot of detours. You know, when you live in an Italian family, only child, all they want is for you to go to school.
Oh, okay.
And so this was like, oh, he's doing it for fun. Oh, he's making some money with it. Oh, that's nice, blah, blah, blah. And all my bands made money, and my parents would come see the bands, and they had fun with it. And but really, I was an English teacher. I was going to be a professor, and I was married. I had an antique store, and I played drums on the weekends. I just couldn't stop music, you know. I think music chooses you. I don't think, I don't think you choose music so much. It's one of those things that it's either in you. Like for me, it was soul provision all the time. We had transistor radios with only one little plug. You guys got 2 plugs now for your... But I had one. And I used to put my pillow over my head at night, stick that in there and listen to the DJs. And it was a world. It was like a world inside of a world, you know? And it was just this amazing world where, you know, you could smile, you could cry. It brought up so many emotions all the time. So... How
do you feel now? I mean, we'll get back, because I want to hear about your being a teacher at one side and still pursuing music, which is what a lot of people have to do today, which you have to have
multiple jobs
to stay in music.
Sure.
But how do you feel about us being in such a visual world now that it was such an audio world that you grew up in?
Look, it's just another medium. in essence, you know, and as advancements happen in technology and everything, you know, you grow into it. I feel, you know, it's fine. We're consuming more music than ever.
That's true.
So we just don't know necessarily how to monetize all that consumption. So the young artists today, the people coming up today, they have real challenges in the respect that if they're being developed by a producer, most likely, or they're learning on their own. Everybody comes to me and everybody knows Pro Tools. If my mother was alive, she'd know Pro Tools.
When there was
she'd
a time
probably
that
put out a CD, you know, they're like. It wasn't like
I remember there was a job just to do Pro Tools. I remember when there was a tape op guy, there was the tape alignment guy, who was different than the tape op you know,
guy, yeah.
And then there was your Pro Tools guy, and that guy was like the prince that walked into the room, like, oh my God, he knows Pro Tools.
He knows Pro Tools, right?
But now
you got Ableton, Pro Tools, Logic. I mean, it's endless, and they're all good, and they all serve a purpose for whoever feels conversant on whatever medium they choose. You know, it's.
So that led into you. You were an English professor, and then
what I was doing was I was playing drums on the weekend in cover bands and all, and then I got gigs playing with Joe Williams, a jazz singer, and then I got another gig working with Dion and the Belmonts and all the doo-wop guys and all that stuff. That was fun, the Shirelles, and I met a business partner there, and we started writing some songs, you know, and. In the beginning, you know, like any other craft, writing's a muscle, and I love songwriters. And in that point in time, I didn't know what the hell I was writing, but we came up with this new dance craze. The hustle was coming out, and I went to my wife at the time, and I went, I can't be a teacher anymore. I'm not happy. I'm miserable. You don't want a sick husband. You want somebody who's going to be productive and come home smiling. I said, so I need a year. One, you know, year. Basically, she said, you know, you kind of got a time limit on this.
We've got to figure this one out.
It's not like this isn't going to drag on for 5 years because we're both teachers, and you know. So instead, I had this kind of like time limit, and with my friend Barry and this other guy Jeff Lowy, we wrote this song, which was a hustle. Was a popular dance at the time, do the hustle. We wrote something called the Foxytrot Hustle. Walked into an office. We did a demo. We'd never done a demo before. Walked into an office from Columbia Records. Guy said, you know, we're looking for we're putting this package out. He hands us a contract, and he said, we want to put this out. And it was the demo. And we had to come back on Monday. Now, it'll probably tie in with a future question of yours, but we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a music attorney. We didn't even know what a music attorney was. But my wife had a cousin who was a lawyer, and he said, sign the contract. We were given the contract Friday. Monday morning, we had to turn it in.
Wow.
We turned it in Monday morning, and we learned many lessons from that because we gave away our publishing. It ended up on a TV commercial. It made a lot of money, but we didn't. You know, we gave away everything.
A lot of that.
The buyout. Boom,
detailed for
buyout.
detailed is where we're going to go.
You know, but that was my entrance point to the record industry, and I'm ever grateful for whatever that was because the learning is what it's all about anyway. So, you know, that was how I got in. That was around 1975.
So on that record, you were producer
and writer. Co-writer,
and co-writer, which led you into just mainly doing that, or did you work a bunch of other records and then get into the executive side?
No. I was an artist. So. Writer, producer, artist, kind of, and we had a little duo that Cashman and West, the guys who produced Jim Croce, took us under their wing, and you know, kind of mentored us, and we put out a record, and we played every weekend, and then we had a production company, a little office right under Stevie Wonder's office. So that was really cool. So that was on Broadway.
Production like
1780 Broadway.
Just music production, or were you producing other things?
Music production. I mean, at that point, that's all there really was.
Okay.
You know, so music production, we were just kind of winging it. We had Frankie Valli's brother. Bobby has signed, so we did a record with him. I produced this guy from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Fred Lipsius, the guy who did the arrangements for Spinning Wheel and all that. And he introduced me to Clive Davis and all these great people. So I had mentors, you know, really great mentors. But at the same time...
Question about that.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to cut you off, but how important is it for young people to have mentors? What's your thoughts on that?
Okay. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah.
And I was at an ASCAP conference yesterday. I must have talked to 100 people in 3 days, all who were like, "Oh, I wish I had a mentor. Mentors are so important. Oh, this guy, somebody's helping me. They're mentoring me." But I had a discussion with a big executive in the industry, and he said to me, "Hey, mentors are bullshit. Today kids don't want that. They don't want the history." And I said, "I'm going to disagree for one reason. I'm going to say people want it. Maybe they don't even know they want it, but they need it.
Yeah.
They need mentorship, And it's important to know history. Just in general, we just can't, just because everything's moving so quickly today, and everything is, and stimulus. With all that stimulus, how do you capture anything in your brain? Your brain's not set up for it.
Yeah.
Your brain doesn't adjust that well to all that.
Yeah.
You can only capture a certain amount of information really intelligently. And mentors and history help you understand where it was and help you lead a course to where it's going to go. How are you going to be a leader, and how are you going to be an innovator if you don't understand where it was?
Yeah. How do people approach? Because you do mentorships, right?
Yeah.
How do people approach?
I love doing.
How would you approach a mentor? Because I've had plenty, but mostly by just luck, to be honest. Like I never was able to just go out and get one. But
your talent probably. People are attracted to people who are people, which you are, obviously. I mean, you and I met casually, and we just like a conversation, and then we're friends.
Yeah.
So people recognize talent. People recognize eagerness for people to learn.
Yeah.
A great mentor sits and goes, "Wow, this kid really is like an open channel. It's like a sponge. This kid wants to learn everything," and so I think you find mentors, and mentors find young people who are eager to learn.
So
they work hand in hand.
As you develop, that was like a big part of you. So that's like a big part of. I believe that's a big part of the music industry in general, to be in it, is mentorship. But
but they don't have. I don't see. I mean, ASCAP and different organizations have mentorship programs.
Do they have that? Okay,
they do, but there's the combination of on-the-spot learning combined with the mentorship.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, you're being mentored, and then you got to throw yourself in the ring. As a producer, it's by fire, what I mean? But you got a lot of tools today. The tools that you have today are amazing. At the same time, it gives you so many tools, it's hard to make choice.
Yeah.
And that as a producer.
You do. You get stuck in what I call the loop. And you're just kind of like, do I do this? Do I do that? It's the concept of you have unlimited plugins. You're just going to sit there all day doing that, when really it doesn't matter. It's about what you're doing with that plugin and the purpose of it,
But people today, I have these conversations that fascinate me. People say, well, that's not the tone of what that's not the tone today. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you break through the barrier and create the new tone?
Yeah.
Unless you do that. Yeah. Unless, and I'm not saying go through, I have a few artists who are not sure of themselves yet because they're new.
Yeah.
When they're not sure of themselves, that uncertainty, if they don't have pure trust in the producer, that's an endless loop. It's just like, let me try one more thing. Let me try one more sound. You have to have trust in, once you find the mentor, once you're working as a producer or vice versa, working with a producer, you have to have that level of trust. Because you'll get stuck. Or don't work with a producer and figure it out on your own, because you have more hours and more time than most people are going to have to do that. It's time consuming. So let's pick it up. So you had your production facility right under Stevie Wonder. Well, it wasn't a facility then. You see, we had 2-track, 4-track, 8-track studios, and then 16-track. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, you went to a studio. There were no production facilities. Nobody really came in with how it is now, where the record is kind of done, but they're just like tweaks that need to be made. No. First of all, I mean, if you want to go back to the history is the independent producer didn't come out until 1950 something. Wes Farrell was one of the first independent producers, and then the guys Lieber and Stoller, who wrote a bunch of hits for the Coasters and the Drifters and all that stuff up on, that time period, 48, 50s, 58, all that. That's when independent producers first came about, right? Yeah. And independent producers did pay sometimes to make a record and deliver it to a label. Mm-hmm. But that's when, before that, it was all staff producers. So everything was like by the books. Staff producer, in a studio. The studio was usually a union studio. Guys,
really?
Yeah, guys worked. You had a limit. You know, Ahmet Ertegun was one of my big mentors. He was the chairman of Atlantic Records. He started Atlantic Records. And he would tell me how they made records, like a Ray Charles record or something like that. Put him in the studio. There's Ray in the corner. There's the bass player. Here's the drummer right here. Here's the overhead mic. Here's the girls over here. You got 1 take, 2 takes. You got 2-3 hours to do it in. That's it. End of story. Arrangers came in. Like today, the producers are arranging everything.
Yeah.
Arrangers came in with, you know.
I like to talk about that a lot because people get it confused in today's world because it all is kind of one. But a composer and a record producer are very two different things.
Yeah.
You know, they can combine as the same person, but
yeah.
generally it's two different positions or two different jobs. It could be the same person doing it, but two different jobs.
I'm decomposing at my age. No. No, composition. Composers are, you know, composers are usually attached to film, commercials, even video games, whatever. Producers, I think, play many different roles.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody says to me, what does a producer do? You got a laundry list on that one, you know.
I was like to say, just don't suck.
there you go. I like that. I'm going to
The whole job is to try not to suck.
Not to suck. That's it. And so much for you and your record. You know. No, producer knows kind of what not to put in. Producer should know to leave something alone when it's really good. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes producers overthink, just like an artist overthinks or a writer overthinks when they're composing something. The overthinking thing is a really wild concept to me because in the beginning I would think you have to fill up every couple of bars with something.
Yeah.
And what I learned is space is the coolest thing imaginable on a record because it gives you a minute to digest what you just heard or what somebody just sang.
Yeah.
You know. But I've had bands come in, you know, and they were great. And they'd say, we want you to produce us and give us your touch. And I'm like, my touch is going to be capturing what you just sounded like in this rehearsal. Yeah. Because it was that good. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm attracted to signing you. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm attracted to working with you. And then a lot of people come with no vision whatsoever, and they ask you to create a vision. You can be good cop, bad cop there. Because you can create a vision. They go, I love it, and then they go talk to their friends, and they go, we don't like it. And they come back and they go, you know, my friends don't like it, so it's not good. And you're sitting there going, well, you just told me you loved it, you know. You
know what's interesting is what I've found a way to get around that, we talked to it in another segment, is because now we're building brands, and music is an aspect of the whole project. And a lot of the time now, the producer is that person. They just don't realize that they also are the brand producer. Because the artists don't know what they want, but we also discussed this. Sometimes we get what we do with that is we like to write. I like to write the demo, and then make the mood board of what the visual is going to look like, and then I go tell. I tell them go tell their whole friends before we step in. Go show everybody you want this, and then when they get that, oh my gosh, it's great. It dilutes the effect of that.
Well, sure. Right away, you're cutting to the core.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great approach. It seems like a lot of work, but you're probably cutting out work in the long run.
Yeah, because some people say that it's not it's as much improv at in the creative process, but in a world where we're having to compete with so much content and the time that it needs to actually have an effect, for me, it finds that you have a target at least.
Yeah, you know, it's always a great thing. I'm talking to an artist right now, and I said, what's your time frame? What's your rollout? What are you thinking? What's the game plan? You know, and they're looking at me like, well, nobody's ever asked me the time frame and the game plan and the rollout. You don't want to make this in a vacuum. Yeah. You don't want this to go into the ether. I mean, you got 1 million songs a week being released on iTunes. Crazy. What kind of, and only 200, this is a fascinating fact that I learned the other day. Yeah. Only 200 break on radio. Now, mind you, radio is 6 weeks behind
200? I would think it'd be less than that. Is that break or actually get played? Because
get played, okay. But not. You don't break 200 bands. So it could be 5 by Bieber, 5 by Celine, 5 by whoever. So in that respect, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
What I found is that when you look at the numbers, they're staggering and they're just so disproportionate, you know.
Yeah.
So that you don't want it to go out there in a vacuum. You somehow, some way, you really want it to go out there and have make an impact. Or
Yeah.
it just seems to me to be too haphazard to just put it out.
To reiterate your point, I would love to get your perspective on how do you get above the noise as a producer? There's going to be a million different people that have a million different ways to do it, but how do you do it? What would you say is it the space? Is that what is your lane?
Oh, no, if you're talking about production style.
Yeah.
I try to facilitate the song and the artist. It's like anybody, I miss sometimes I hit the mark, you know. I look at the song first, then I look at the artist. What are you really saying? What are you trying to convey here?
Yeah.
What do you feel about this? They always have an input is, I want to sound like this one, you know? And I keep looking at them like, no, you want to sound like you.
Yeah.
Only you want to find what you sounds like. So give me perspective, long-term, short-term perspective on what you sound like. You're going to grow and change.
Yeah.
You're morphing and that's the beauty of the growth anyway. That's the beauty of who you're going to be.
Yeah.
So let the audience experience that with you and, you know, bring that to them. So for me, I'm a facilitator.
Yeah.
You know, as a producer.
And that's a style, by the way. That is a lane, which is just so people know.
But it's not like, example, I'm a huge fan of Trevor Horn, but he has a style.
Yeah.
You know, it's you listen, you go, this is amazing. You know, there's so much going on in the sound spectrum, and he always captures the artist. It doesn't leave you without a feeling of the artist.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty. But I just try to facilitate. I look at what the situation is. I talk to the artist a lot. I get in their head. I always ask them, what 10 songs do you love? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a little litmus test. Because then I'll look at the 10 songs and go, I'll try to find a thread. Do they like lyrics more? Is it a lyrical thing? Is it a melodic thing? Is it a rhythmic thing? What is it? Young people, a lot of people tell me today that they're very taken by rhythm.
Rhythm.
You know? We're in a very, I don't know if you know if we've had this discussion before, but in the record industry from the 50s forward, every 6 years we've had a shift in radio. We've had rhythmic versus more
you can actually watch it in Billboard charts
for 6 years but now we're past the 6 year period, and I have a theory about that. And the theory is that hip hop came in, which is rhythmic as well as it is dialogue, you know, and lyric, but it's rhythmic driven and it's urban based. And when hip hop came in, it became the rock and roll for the younger generation.
Yeah, of course.
And so when people say rock and roll is coming back, well, rock and roll didn't go away, but it's not going to get the play that it used to, I think, in radio and maybe in Spotify, unless people are exposed to that, or unless there's a really heavy blending of urban with the rock and contemporary elements like EDM and stuff like that. Then you got something that's unique and different and all, you know, and that's very cool. Yeah. You know, but that's where I think it's going.
You know, you've had great success as an executive as well in the publishing realm.
Publishing was where most of my successes came from initially, because I had amazing mentors.
Yeah.
And I had good ears, supposedly, so I guess that helped.
And so one more fact on the mentor thing before we jump into your publishing credentials. How would people approach you about being a mentor?
Dude, straight ahead, you know, like people come over to me in time and, oh, dude, if you're doing a session, can I sit and... Yeah, sure. What's your interest? You know, what do you want to do? I can always use interns. But I want interns to show up. Yeah. And I have a very flexible schedule. I could be in New York tomorrow and back on Wednesday, so I can't tell them, be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know, it's kind of a flexible thing. You got to check in with me, whether you text me, email me, that kind of thing. But I'm very approachable. I had an intern come in a couple of weeks ago. Really, really sweet kid, really bright kid and all. I'm doing a session, and I'm going to the engineer, you know, I'd like to change that. Andrew, right? And I said, Andrew, can you try this, that? And the kid's sitting there going, I don't like that. Maybe you should try this. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. This is right on the list of do not do. First time you're in the
Do not backseat drive.
And it brought me right back to something I did when Barbra Streisand had a session.
Oh, this is
and
good.
Michael Marshall let me sit in on that session, and I just casually in the back was singing a harmony to something, and he looked at me and he gave me this look like, if I wanted your harmony, I would have asked for it. He didn't have to say anything. The look was very clear, and I was like, okay, maybe I should get coffee to somebody now. You know? Would you like coffee and donuts? What would you, I mean, you know, it was, you know, you learn by experience. And so this kid, I didn't say anything to him, but next time he comes in, I'm going to say, listen, I know this is new for you and all that stuff, but I love having that energy. I work with mostly young people now. I have it 5 years now, whatever it's been, maybe longer. Yeah. I haven't been working with a Slash or a Clapton or anybody like that in years. This is really what you know. This is what I get energized by. Youth is the forward. You know, it's here and it's forward.
But that's what I always appreciate about you is that you have a sense of, you're one of the few people that I've met that has a sense of the importance of staying not particularly up to date, but that there was the golden era of music, and then we're in a new era of music. It's just a different place. But a lot of people have a hard time grasping the change.
They were angry. They got displaced. It's a diaspora. it's a forced diaspora out of the industry. You know, they were like, oh, there's no place for me anymore. What am I supposed to be doing here? Yeah. And instead of channeling that into, wow, what's new, what's creative, what's this, what's exciting, and where can I make a place for myself? Yeah. It's a challenge, and people get to a certain age, they don't want the challenge. Yeah. They lie down, they go, okay, finished.
I'm done.
But I never felt like that, you know. I mean, and it wasn't monetarily based either, you know. Mm-hmm. It was more of a, it was more of this desire to figure it out, you know. Just like, okay, I like working with young people. How do they hearing it? How are they seeing it? How are they explaining it? Mm-hmm. You know, I just found it. I just feel bad that they didn't get to experience what I did. They'll have their own experience, and that's wonderful. It'll be on to them. I can look right now, and I can go through CD collections or whatever's in this place, and pick out something that's 60 years old that's still relevant that a 15-year-old will listen to today. Yeah. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to happen, but it sure is a testament to that.
It's just it's its own place. I've actually found that some of the more classic rock records and music that was developed, because it had a development stage. I think that's what's probably missing is there's the development stage that people are actually, you know, because of the playlists of Spotify and Apple Music, people are actually finding them. Yeah, and they're listening to them again. So
they're buying records.
Yeah,
at $42 a pop, but they're playing them on a $90 record player from Urban Outfitters, which is totally like, I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me? $42 a record, $90 for the record player.
Somehow they were able to find and turn wax into luxury. Yeah. Like it became a luxury purchase, which is great. I mean, I don't knock anybody.
Vinyl's got 10% of the industry. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, me too. I'm not upset with it.
But there are two things you mentioned, and you said, you know, because people are developing. Yeah. When I got into the industry, it was about development. Mm-hmm. It was because you had a physical sale, and you had also limited amount of product in the market. You could develop a fan very easily through FM radio.
That's a good point. We should follow. Like there was a limited. There was only like gatekeeper.
500 records a year being released worldwide. Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, and so your limitation was you waited for the next Steely Dan album. You waited for the Rumors album that was to come. You know, as it grew. Mm-hmm. And labels like Warner Brothers and all Warners were brilliant at development. Mm-hmm. They were like, okay, we got a Randy Newman, let's just hang in there with him, you know. He'll evolve and he'll develop, and maybe we'll get one thing like Short People comes out, and that becomes popular, and then he'll do films and TV. But they developed. They spent time. The Doobie Brothers, they had a lot of great artists on Warner Brothers that they developed. And producers developed them. They had staff producers. Yeah. And that was great. something that I loved. I always wanted to be a staff producer. I did. I wanted. That was it. That was a goal of mine. But what was interesting, the second part of the equation was that we had gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Now, I know that people go, oh, bullshit gatekeepers. Oh, nobody's going to monitor what I say and what I do and what my First Amendment rights and whatever.
Yeah.
The reason why the gatekeeper thing meant something, I think, was because it was an honor to be this A&R guy who supposedly had good taste, who found this artist, and who worked as hard as possible with that artist to make a great album.
Yeah.